Out?
Yeah, but honestly,
I need to know on that. Talk at lunch. All right, we ready? Okay, so Jeff always wants to go first. All right, Jeff, what do you?
Obviously, you track the box that we're the game. You track first appointments, you track appointments. Additional purchase. Tell you future marketing purposes, maybe we can suppose on dollars on scale.
Yeah, like so if everybody comes in with a dog, what do we know? Well, we need to do 2 versions next time because we didn't get the cat people. Okay, I think those were all great. Okay, how about this group? What do you have?
Yeah, go ahead. Inquiry calls, inquiry website.
Did you guys hear that? Okay, he's got 2 really good ones to start off with. Say them again.
Inquiry calls, inquiry website to the website, appointments by phone versus appointments by website, reminder call responses, how many show up, how many additional services were purchased at the time of visit.
Mm-hmm.
Schedule, was the next appointment scheduled? Did they show for the next appointment?
Okay, now I love the first, I mean all those are pretty much some of the same things, but the first 2 were new, okay? Why is that important? Phone inquiries and website traffic. Okay, what does that tell you? Okay, so remember part of this is like building awareness. If that postcard increased my web traffic, then I got people to go look me up. Okay, and maybe their dog didn't need any heartworm now. Who they are, okay? So they may be just looking at, okay, no one came in. Like we didn't get any appointments. And then you would, if you set it up in advance, well, let's just look at that web traffic because, you know, you're gonna send this out to a bunch of people, some of which just had heartworm checks yesterday. But they could be in the market for a new vet. So let's also track your web traffic and see if they go check you out. So if there's a spike there, we know it got people to look you up. Okay, same thing with phone traffic. You know, if they start calling, then, you know, that tells you, okay, we created some awareness here, and that's a good thing.
You might also suggest that you should have put some element on the postcard that people are consistently asking about.
Okay. Okay, that's true too. Okay, you guys have, what did you guys come up with?
The one analytical thing that we discussed was whether or not they would be willing to calculate what the campaign actually cost them. I mean, it's going to cost them for the postcard and postage, but you know, how much doctor's time, how much raw material, to really come up with a real ROI.
Okay. When is the time to talk about that?
Wouldn't you have to do it ahead of time? So that you'd be willing to add all that up?
Very good, Marilyn. Yeah, so you want to say, okay, look, because this is where your expertise comes in. Okay, now, this is great. We're happy to do this project for you. Here's what we need to look at. Here's what we need to track. You know, I'm going to need this information back from you so that we can calculate the ROI. So how many appointments are actually scheduled? Because you can't control that. Like, you don't know what's going on in his appointment system, but you get him to commit up front that I'm going to provide you back the number of appointments that are scheduled. I'm going to provide you back, you know, the total visit expense or something, because they could buy other stuff. Like, you want to set that up first with them so that you're not where you are now, where it's like, okay, I'm scrambling after the fact. Can you give me some of that information? Yeah, no, I'm busy. I'm on to the next thing. Okay? So if you set it up as part of the campaign, you have a much better chance of them sharing that information with you. Okay, so that was really good, because then I really could do an ROI.
But they're not going to know how successful it is until we see down the road, when they make these future appointments, see how much revenue they obtain from those.
Correct. Now, so what's a good question to ask? To start with. Well, that's a good question. I ultimately want to know, what does it look like today? Okay? So if you get a new patient and 50% of them come back, I need to know that. Okay? Because if we run this campaign and 48% come back, I got a difference there we got to examine. If 75% come back, then we did a really good job on this. Okay? So you want to always, it's like me and the Hickey Freeman thing, you don't want to be scrambling after the fact. Well, wait a second, how many did you get? You did TV before. How, you know, like, you don't want to do that after the fact. You want to be able to say, because this is where your expertise comes in, this is what we're going to look at. You know, so where is it today? We'll be able to measure if there's improvement, stuff like that.
Well, and Colin mentioned about it's difficult for all of us to see what their hours of operation are. So we started thinking, well, if most of these appointments that the people are asking for, they're asking for, you know, on Saturday morning or late in the day or whatever, maybe you're hearing something about who's really responding.
Okay. No, that's brilliant. That's really good. Okay? I didn't even think of that. That's a good one, because basically, how do I know with the information that they provided that you didn't just go, I work the second shift, I can't come to the vet between 9 and 5 p.m. So what, you're not a good one for me. Okay, I don't know that. Okay, so now you'd get into a campaign strategy conversation, because is it better to give them that information so they have one less distraction about, yeah, they're open, let me call and get an appointment, or is it better to build in some kind of mechanism to try to see if that's why you didn't come? Okay, because ultimately I have two buckets, and then I can split the buckets. Okay, that's so basically I can say you just 90 came from a 3-mile radius, that's your target. You need to start mailing 10 miles away. We're going to focus on within that 3-mile thing. Okay? And it's easy to figure out because you have compare those two. All right, good job. How do you get? Okay. Right.
A big frustration with consumers is the why do you give free stuff to somebody you don't know out of the customer? So I track how many of your current customers walk in.
I'm spending I'm giving up the revenue from the office visit and the heartworm, which I would have sold. Okay? Now, there's stuff inside of that. Did I tell you the people giving blood story? See, there's stuff. This gets so fun when you really think of it, because there's some businesses, not necessarily vets, but some things where you have to get past number 2. Like in the reality, if you give blood, if you can get to the 3rd time, your lifetime. The biggest problem for them is 2nd and 3rd. So they can usually, get new people to give like pretty easily. But then once you do it, like at first you don't know what you're gonna experience. Like, so you're like, oh sure, I want to help. And then you do it and you didn't quite like it. Yeah, and so then you're like, oh, come again. I don't know. Now you've got apprehension about it. I didn't really like that. And it's hard to get people to get to 2 and 3. But once they get to 2 and 3, they get past all that and they're like lifelong donors. So I don't know about vet, but that'd be curious. Like if I get you over, if you're like a switcher and you just go with what's convenient, if I can get you past 2, do I have a higher retention rate? Like that'd be really interesting. So in which case it would be worth it to give you the free thing if I could keep you, but I'd need to know what's your current attrition rate or retention rate. Like, if they come once, how much of them usually stay? And if there's a big portion that don't, then the next question I'd be like, okay, well, if they come twice, what's your retention rate? Oh, it's much higher. okay, then we can evaluate whether it's worth it to spend that money and send to those first timers. I mean, it gets fun, you know? Is what? Oh, they're ridiculous. Oh, yeah.
Regulated energy companies, the day you switch, they want to offer you what you couldn't get from because you're an existing customer. Had that happen this week.
Yeah, and you're just like, I'm done. You know, I mean, I don't know why they.
Tear up the time, I just throw away the Time Warner brochures every time they come because I go, well, it's not for me because I'm already an existing customer.
That's a really good point, David and Dan and Marianne. If somebody says to you, I don't have any data. You ever heard that before? Like, I have no data. Okay? The simplest thing you can do to get the biggest payoff is customers, non-customers. Okay? If you do nothing else, I say, thank you for being a customer and we have a 10% offer. Okay? Because it is annoying to get that we have a 10% offer thing, but it doesn't even acknowledge that you're already spending money there. Okay? So if you do, you know, like if somebody's trying to do better, doesn't really have a ton to work with, that's the simplest, easiest payoff is we'll just split it up into customers and non-customers. And we're going to say something slightly different to the customers.
So part of it is to train their staff not to respond to these kind of things. I had a situation this week where I wanted to increase double my work, and the person said, well, I'm sorry, we can't do that. We're starting all over. I said, wait a minute.
That is so stupid.
I said, well, we have to understand our process.
No, you.
If somebody calls by chance and want to double their order, say yes.
And figure it out later. Yeah, no, very good point. Like, because that's the difference between doing things right and doing the right things. Okay, so you tell people, hey, when they come in, it's only 10%. You're not giving them 30 or 40, you know, it's just 10%. And then somebody comes in and they're like, well, I want to spend $900,000, you know, can I get a little bit more? No, it's only 10%, you know, like, I mean, because they're doing the right thing, or they're doing the right things. That's what you told them to do. Okay, and then you have to have a staff that can go, okay, but this is $900,000, like, we're going to take it, you know, and that's doing things right. Okay.
That sounds like it's so simple, and you think AT&T would know that.
The trouble.
I have to be first, and when I started it, it was $9 for 12 months. So then after my 12 months, I've had it for 3 years now. So now it's like 140. Well, what I do is as soon as I get that bill for that 12 month where it goes up to the other rate, I just call them and say, I want to go back to $89 because you're continuously mailing me things like I'm not already a customer and I don't have to pay any extra. And then they'll say, well, you know, we can't do that or whatever, and I'll say that you're not the person I need to talk to. Switch me to somebody else, and then it goes back on.
Well, but ultimately it's going to get to someone who says, this is not worth it, give her the $89, okay? So, yeah, so, but the bigger the organization, the harder that gets, because you have, you know, 20,000 people that have to make that decision. Like, it's just trickier. But that means you can do it right at your level, at your size of company.
And I think what happens a lot of it is customers leave and never do that.
Oh, yeah, like they just get mad.
But I don't want to look for anybody else. I just want to nag you to get what I want.
Well, and you know, that brings up another, like this is getting very convoluted, but you know, when stuff doesn't work, like, wow, that should have worked. That should have been, well, 20. You did great. Like, but let's say that you had mailed out 20,000 and got 2 responses, okay? So then you'd be like, shoot, that should have been better. You know, like, what's the problem? And the general sense is you start looking at what you did. You know, like, is the right call to action? Do I have expertise? You know, maybe I didn't make the right offer. We have the wrong audience? Like, you're looking inward, which is, you should do that, okay? But don't forget about outward, you know, like, so what else did you do? Okay, what else was happening? Oh, by the way, at the same time, you know, AT&T was running that promo, Sprint was giving 10 people free things for $25. And so even though your offer was really good, in comparison to what Sprint was doing, not so good. So we had a good plan, we just didn't know what Sprint was going to do. So you want to be aware of the customers in the markets, you know, so let's say you're doing a restaurant and you're doing a Mexican restaurant and they're running this great deal and we think it should work and all that, and then what's a big Plaza Azteca, you guys have those, the chain? They're all over the East Coast. So Plaza Azteca is a national or a regional chain, then they're doing a big promotion at the same time. They're much bigger, they're running TV spots, they've got all that. Well, you're going to lose some to that. So you want to be able, you know, like, it's not always what you did. It's what else is happening. So you don't forget to look at that, okay? Like, I mean, honest to God story, because you remember stories. Right before 9/11, one of our big customers was a grocery store, and these guys had phenomenal retention rates. It's just everybody loved them. It was like Wegmans, if you remember those from the East Coast, and it was called U-Crops. It was family-owned, high level of service, high value, top quality. So we did this campaign called the Top 400, which we had mailed to the top 400 customers in each of the 30 stores, and it was like a survey. And, we were trying to determine, to grow what people liked about them and try to build some demographics on who should be the target audience and everything. So we literally dropped this on the 10th, okay? So, I mean, it was a big job for them. It was all personalized. It was like each version was from the store manager. The questions were specific to the location of the store. Like, it was a huge deal. And this is 2001, so not a lot of this was getting done. So, we're like, I'm sweating bullets because, I mean, yeah, we got this all the chaos, but I'm also thinking they'll never do this again because we have nothing, no response, nothing. And then about 3 weeks later, they just started coming in buckets, like, big trays from the post office. It was like their customer base was so loyal, they got that and they were like, I'm going to give them my input. But they just had to get through the shock. But, I'm sitting there going, oh man, we're getting nothing. How can it be nothing? And then they all came in at once, like about 2.5, 3 weeks later. Yeah, probably. But that you got to consider that external factors. Another real life story, a customer of mine who is in Connecticut was doing a piece for snow, should be big, right? In the winter, like, free salt and snow shovels and, it's all about that. Well, so they designed this all thinking the snow's going to hit, roughly in November. So I think it was targeted to go out like the second week of November, where it was very typical to the weather patterns. But that year it stayed warm till like February. It was like in the 60s in November. So they dropped it because we think it's going to get cold, and it didn't. Well, nobody needs a snow shovel or even thinks about ice or salt if it's 60. So stuff like that can happen. And you want to be able to, have that conversation with your customer, okay? And one of the best ways to do it is like, okay, it's not cold. Hey, I'm getting worried. Like, call them up, I'm getting worried. It's 65. Like, don't wait till they go, this sucked. And you're like, well, let me pull the weather from then. Like, you want to be proactive about that. This is concerning me. It's 65. We really needed it to be cold. Like, say it in advance, okay? All right. Okay, so, well, it was scheduled to mail. Like, you're trying, a lot of times with timing, you're trying to slide into a window, beat the competition, but be timely. Okay. Custom URLs. Okay, so even if I didn't want to do QR codes, I didn't want to do anything, like I could have a unique URL for everywhere this poster stands. Okay, so that get more information, go to XYZ, and it's a unique one. So it's just going to cost me $10 plus whatever you want to mark it up for everyone you buy at GoDaddy.com for the URLs. Okay. Or if you're a programmer, you can program that. Print to mobile, I could do. That's like make it image recognition so that I don't have to scan the code or tap anything. I just take a picture of the poster itself, and that links to content. You could do it that way. And then you could get really sexy and do augmented reality, which we've talked about this before. Don't be afraid of that because, oh man, what is wrong with my head today? There's 2 companies that do it right now. That do augmented reality, and they're really great to work with. Like Blipper is one of them. And if you just call them up and say, I think I want to try this and I want to do a simple version of it, like they'll walk you through it, they'll help you, and it's not even actually all that expensive. So, if there's a need, if there's a cause for something like that, they can help you do it. All right, now I'm not going to go through all these, but I put them in here. And then a few pages in, I put a nice site on the AMA, American Marketing Association website, where if you ever get razzle-dazzled by some marketer using a term that you've never heard of, which they love to do, you can go to that site and look it up and be smarter, okay? So there's all kinds of terms, and this is really not going to apply to small to mid-sized businesses because most of them are tracking. But if you ever got, like I'm working with the bank or somebody bigger and they actually know what they're talking about, there's some terms that, you know, typically are used: acquisition rate, attrition rate, bounce rate, conversion rate. You know, you should know what those things are and be able to talk through them. There's cost per inquiry, cost per rating point, stuff like that. We're not going to go through all these, but I gave you some because you have this now as a reference guide. You could look there first. And then here's the URL for the American Marketing Association glossary. So if anybody ever says something to you and you don't want to look like an idiot, and you're like, yeah, you could come home and look it up, okay? All right, so let's talk a little bit about some more sophisticated tracking, but you guys came up with a lot of good ones, so you're ahead of the game. Let's talk about data, okay? So what does it have in it? Name, okay? Address, email, contact information. Let's set that in that one. What else? So what's the customer data besides contact information? What? Okay, could have interests, products they've purchased before could be in there. Date of last purchase could be in there. Could have age bracket. Action value of the sale. Link, you know, when started as a customer. We can have all kinds of good stuff in it. Past, like key products or what they typically buy. All of these things are good. To do nothing, I'm going to say customers something different than non-customers. And you say to the database, you know, we want to do that, Mr. Customer, do you know who your customers are? And they say yes. You say, what do you know about them? Nothing. Like, the data's a mess, I don't know. Okay, so what you might say is, do you know, like, when the record was created? Oh yeah, we have that. Okay, well then that tells you when they started as a customer. So I could say on your piece, Marianne, thank you for being a customer since 1984. Okay, is that relevant? Yeah, so I mean, that's easy to do. We talked about that with the nonprofits. You know, thank you for your gift of $62 last year. That's an easy way to make it specific to them, and you know that amount is in the database usually. What did you do? Uh-huh.
They sent us a greeting card, actually. Across the greeting card. Thank you. No, it's a happy anniversary.
I like that.
They had no idea. They didn't know how they were. So they sent them. Okay. $50 too. And after a while, we got them met. So try it.
Okay.
We were quite selective. We picked our favorite customers.
Good thinking.
But we didn't care about the thing, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't know. And we sent them, and it was almost too successful.
Too many $50, huh?
Too many. Well, I mean, okay.
They brought in the coupons.
Okay. So you really know when the anniversary was. Okay.
Think it through well. Okay. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but we didn't do things like, number one, we didn't put an expiration. We really didn't care, I guess. But number two is the thing that we did wrong is we did not put any kind of purchase in or
We should have said for any order over $100.
we literally had.
Oh, so there's no qualifiers. So you had somebody coming in and spending $49 and getting the whole thing for free.
Customers who spent thousands of dollars call up and say, I'd like to use this coupon on my next order. Okay, $100.
$62.
Yeah. Okay. Now, where's Jay? Did Jay just step out? Oh, okay.
I
Because
said it was almost too successful because I was thinking, oh man, this is going to stop.
okay.
I'm not going to make any money.
This is actually, I was talking to Jay about this because I was like, we need to give them a way to call and say, here's what I want to do, so that we could say, okay, you need an expiration date, you need a value on it, because it's hard to think of everything. Okay, so if you had a mechanism, like that's what you did, like you said it to me, and I was like, I tweaked this, you know,
We've
it
got a
was.
file now, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, we're talking with our customers about it. that's the thing that we'll do, is we will now tell them, don't forget the obvious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we learned that the hard way. Yeah.
Make sure your coupon's not too good.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure, that the next person date, things like that, just kind of, because, like I said, we're in the business and we didn't even think of it.
Now, it actually might, even though you're a little scared because you paid a lot of $50 is, but I would look at now, what that average spend was with those customers. You already targeted the best customers. So if last year, you can run the numbers and say this is what they spent last year, they exercised the coupon and they spent more this year, then it'd be worth it.
One thing it did, the one thing we did do right is we looked at our list before we sent them out. We did
Okay.
an analysis there and said, these customers are good, they're big. These customers were good, but for some reason we hadn't ordered them.
Okay.
And that was the thing that was interesting, is that when we get particular with this, they called us and said, I just realized I'm out of stationery.
And I did get some new orders from those
New
that I
orders
had
from
seen.
those older customers,
Kind of
which
back-
was good. That was probably the best thing.
Okay, so okay,
Looked up the old customers.
and it was in
we
print,
realized
wasn't
that
it?
We did appreciate it.
That's called reactivation, and that's a big deal. Okay, so that's a good thing. Yeah, so now we want to look and see if they stay activated. Okay, so but that's all those things. Okay, why did
Piece of loss, it's not a typical coupon.
okay.
Put it in an envelope,
I want to another. I said before, are you? Okay, because you probably didn't print this variably or anything, like you just did. Yeah. I think this is personalized marketing, even though technically that's a static piece, because you put the work in on the front end of who exactly you were going to send that to. So expand the definition here a little bit, okay? Because you did all that data on the front end, you ended up with a very specialized list, which in my book is personalized.
And we'll probably do it again next year. I've got some kind of a marketing plan.
Honestly, why would you do? I wouldn't do that. Okay, that you get to the point of diminished returns on this stuff. Okay, so why would I go back in and have to spend all that time trying to figure out really what their anniversary was? I already know whether it was right or wrong. It worked. So that's the other thing. Like people can get, and I was the queen of this. Okay, because I got fascinated by it and I was digging in too deep and I was making it too specific and it just made every project like uber ridiculously complicated. And then somewhere along the line I figured out that was not good. But it took me a while to figure that out. I just was going overkill. Like the thing about this is you're probably getting as good a response from that as you would if you see us on 17 be the future for you. No, it doesn't matter. So that's the point. Some things matter, some things not so much. So don't get, watch out that you don't get too wallowy in something that's really not going to have a big payoff. Like this is working, so there's no reason to go back and recreate that. But examining the audience and slice and dicing the audience a little bit different, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, good work on that. All right, so let's look at this. Okay, so this is a customer database for Sunny Day Spa. Okay, so we see their booking number, which is probably like their customer number. We see their status. We need their staff. The person who provides the service. You see what service they had, what room they used. I don't know what's on the other side of that. Then we have some detail information up there on that tab. We know when their past appointments were. We know what they ordered, and we know what we billed them. Okay, so if I was trying to be relevant, I have a lot of stuff to work with. Now, what's the next thing you want to look at? So somebody, I have all this data. You going to run with it? Before you design a whole big elaborate campaign that's using 16 pieces of this? You look. Okay, so say, can you just run me like 100 records? because you end up looking at this and finding out that 1 in every 20 records has any information in it. Yeah, and so you just built a whole elaborate campaign where you were using all pieces and parts of this, and then you got the data. Not good. Okay, waste of a lot of time. So if you think you're going to do something pretty sophisticated, one of the first steps is, can I just see a sample of that database to make sure that we've got what we are probably going to need. And then if they show you that, then you look at it and you say, okay, I can pull what I need, or okay, really this is not good. So we're going to go back and try to do simple first. Okay? All right, you can append data, to get variables. So going back to the dogs and the vet, maybe one of those high-end vets that have monitors in the boarding rooms and all that. Well, that's going to be how income, okay? Because even if you love your pet to death, if your income's too low, you don't have that disposable income. You could do that by geography, because you can basically be like, this cluster or this zip code is high income, still going to fluctuate, okay? So if you really need to do this, you can append how income, what was the average income of the people that did respond and did become patients, because now I know that's the segment group I want to get the next time, okay? So you can always append the data they have to get some more detail, but you want to think through what's the value of that, because it costs money. What can I really get from that information? Okay, here's all the different, you can't read this, but hopefully you can see it a little bit better in your book. But there's a gazillion different data elements that you can buy. When did you get the mortgage? What is the loan to value mortgage? What's the lender's name? What kind of cards you use. I mean, there's tons of data out there. So if it would be important to something that you want to track, then you can get it, but you need to think in advance of what the value of knowing it's going to be. Does that make sense? And then you could get, so we talked about data appending, you can geocode, somebody tell us about geocoding. Anybody know anything about that? I don't know. I think I know, but I'm not absolutely positive. Does anybody know? No? No one knows? Oh, great. Yeah, I know. I think we should. I think it has to do with, makes sense, like what geographic region or whatever you're in. I don't know why you can't do that by address, but maybe it makes it easier, would be my supposition. Self-reported interests, okay? So let's say you were doing work for a fishing lodge, and the fishing lodge wanted new customers. Do I want to just send everybody? No, because not everybody fishes. So in that case, in order to segment my list and get a better hit rate, I might want to go get people who have self-reported, I'm a fisherman, which they do. Like when you sign up for, you send back one of those bingo cards and you say, I like, householding, couponing and whatever you say on that, then that's now in a database somewhere. So that may be important depending on how specific the audience segment is, okay? Because you're going to get a better response rate if I try to get fishermen to come fishing than if I try to get the general population to come fishing. Oh, thank you, David. What is it?
Associated geographic coordinates or other geographic data, such as street addresses and zip codes. With geographic coordinates, the features can be mapped and entered into GIS systems, or the coordinates can be embedded into media, such as digital photographs via geotagging.
Okay.
There's a trial right now, this week in Houston, where I was sent to prison because he shared a photograph of something he shouldn't have, and they were able to track it back to his computer to the metadata tag in it.
Okay.
The first case ever for someone to be convicted through that. It happened sometime this week.
Okay, so that's how they know. Does anybody have the app Retail Me Not? Retail Me Not? You have it? I don't have it, but I know. So basically that's what it does. Like if you you're by a Bed Bath & Beyond, it'll beep, 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 15% off, like it sends you geographic specific coupons. So you would need that, and you would need that information. I'm thinking if you're doing one of those things where I get an automatic map driven from where you live to the, tire place, which is also a very common thing. So that's probably the piece of data that you need to be able to do that. Okay, so you got the self-reported interest, and the other thing that might come in handy is lifestyle coding. Have you ever heard of this? Like Personix, Prism, ESRI, there's like a number of companies. And basically that lumps tend to give them like cute little names like Suburban Squires and Country Elite, and they all have like a cute little title, but then it basically gives you like the persona of that person. This person likes to travel, but not we don't know at the individual level, but you're in that group, so you probably do. Likes to travel, drinks Starbucks coffee, drives higher end automobiles, likes to golf, and wants to retire at 60. It's called psychographic, like lifestyle modeling, stuff like that. And the companies that do it are Prism, Personix is another one. There's a company called like ESRA, I think it's called. So if you work with the data company, you say, I want, lifestyle data, then they'll help you figure out what you want. Because clearly, if you think about that, and you had, like you were, maybe even that clothing store, like there's going to be a type of category of person that wants a customized suit. Like that might have worked there. Okay? Okay, so real world campaign. I think we looked at this one of the times before. We'll do this and then we'll take a break. Steinmart, okay? So you remember this. So we had tremendous success. Okay, so there was their landing page. So basically, I'm going to get a chance to win a $1,000 shopping spree, which is a big deal. Okay? My call to action is what? Okay, so that's much better than the pet thing, which nothing. Okay? You're invited to our exclusive online appreciation event. Go online now to get $10 off $25. And so there's your mistake. $10 off 8, you have to spend at least $25. And a chance to win. We're giving away 10 $100 gift cards and a $1,000 shopping spree when you share online. And then you have all the share mechanisms. There was the landing page. Okay? So you filled out this information for your chance to win. Okay? And then you could share it on the social media, just from that page. Go ahead and share the offer. Okay? Now, they had this survey page, which was, how often do you shop at Steinmart? What do we think about that? That good question. The data was customers. Okay, so that's good point. Okay. Yeah, so they were going to expand the audience by the sharing. Okay. I mean, it's a little bit like the don't you know? Like a little bit, okay? Now, I'm sure they wanted some information on that, but this is getting dangerously close to what is the point, okay? Because I probably know. Now, I guess if the person was paying cash, I wouldn't know. But maybe, I don't know. I don't. Yeah, they had, so it's getting close to what difference does it make, okay? Well, why would you want it? Let's look at it that way. Like, let's try to figure out why they probably wanted to do it. Okay, and then what am I going to do with that?
Create another database to get a different offer.
Okay, I could do that. Okay.
Or is the campaign as a whole, is it transitioning people who don't shop very often to come in, or if they're already frequent, then the campaign wasn't really a good spend?
Well, the whole goal of this thing was to expand the audience. They were just using their existing customers to do the expansion. Yeah. So that was good. But that's the data that would be good. If it was true, I could up you to twice a month, and the average, your average transaction when you come in is $28, then now I've got two $28, not one. So I don't know why they would do it. I'm just worried about the accuracy of that. I mean, there's time.
Yeah, you don't remember exactly.
Yes. So wins. you,
I think you got a better chance of winning.
oh yeah, good point, David. Well, in which case then that data, okay? So if I want to say 4 because who I have a better chance, then it's not realistic in any way, so what good is it? Yeah.
But if you say once a year, they might want to know why. I mean, you just don't. They want to know the next.
Well, they only ask the one, okay? So they're not going to know, like, why only once a year, okay?
It's like the little survey card.
Yeah, what's the point? That really doing.
Experiences, I'm sure. But you get a thing in the email that says, please help us out and answer this survey.
Yes.
It'll only
Short
take-
survey.
It will only take a couple of minutes. Okay? And then you start in, and it's like, about halfway through it, you said, how many times can I ask this question? Number one, because they've already asked it once in the survey a different way, and you know it.
Mm-hmm.
But then after a while, you just say,
Very
Whatever. I want to get to the end.
just ask me 3 questions and get out of my life.
Okay, so
Do it again tomorrow with 3 more questions or something. You got a like it.
I completely agree. So big takeaways. Don't ask stuff that you're not going to use with because you're running a risk. You want that piece of data. Your risk is I'm going to lose people before they convert. Is it really worth it? Okay, so you want to ask people that. Secondly, if I do need a bunch of stuff, okay, like I really am trying to analyze my customer base, I need market trending information, which people do, that's why they do the long surveys, is you have to do some of those tricks, like first you have to limit, the time. Tell them how long it's going to be, tell them you're 20% through, you're 30% through, that will minimize the drop off, okay? But the longer the survey, the less likely the data is to be completely accurate, okay?
15 minutes later, it's still working.
Yeah. Now there's value in knowing that stuff, but you start to trade the value if it's too long or if the questions are difficult to answer, so you need to work with your customers and your job then is just to ask one of those important questions and wait for the answer. Okay, I'm a little worried about the data you're going to get back on this question. How are you going to use this data? And then wait for the answer. Okay, because then you get to show your expertise. We've found that asking too many questions causes more distraction and drop off. And if the real goal here is to sell something, you're going to be trading that. Are you really willing to do that?
The other irritating thing, and this is unrelated,
We all do.
but those irritating things happened in the last few months is that there's the headline, there's the thing about here's, Bill Scott won $10 million. Click here to find out why.
Mm-hmm.
How.
Yeah,
You
they-
click there and they take you to something totally different.
That's suggested post stuff? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, a lot of headlines, a lot of them now, not even relevant.
And not even relevant. It's like, man, I need a second hand on that.
I agree.
I don't even look at it anymore. I just watch it all the time.
Okay,
So why are they wasting their time?
because there's so many people on Facebook that even, a third of 1% is a crap load of people. So like that's what's happening.
It's like playing crap with $1 million dice.
Yeah.
You're gonna
That's why they're doing it, but whatever. But they're trading something for that, which is people getting distracted. Okay. Okay, so here's what Steinmart ended up with data-wise, okay? So they had total response of 30,000, 7.85% came from the mail, 127% came from social sharing, and 15.5% 1.15% came from direct sharing, like I emailed it to you. Outgoing shares, like look at, email. Now, what does that tell you? Okay, what does that tell you? Okay. Is it easier to hit the share button on Facebook or to type in an email and send an email?
It's harder.
Okay, so what does that tell me?
No,
A little bit.
They care more about the person sending an email than if you share it on Facebook, you're like, okay, here it is.
Yeah, this is
I
a,
take the time to email it to my dad or whoever. That's more important than just for.
and I send it to not everyone, but specific people that I cared about. Okay, so if you're analyzing this, they have a very loyal customer base. That's what that tells you. Okay, now, loyal customers, I'm personally sending it to my close friends, that limits my reach, right? Okay, because you're not going to send individual emails to 17,000 people. Okay, you're not going to send it to 400 people. The average number on Facebook, somewhere, I think it's like 400-ish now of the number of people you're friends with. So now they're like, okay, we got a good customer base, and that's good because this worked, and they love us. But I need to broaden my reach. And so I did pretty good on Facebook. Okay, so from the from the marketer's perspective, I'm probably going to look at, okay, Facebook is for me. I think it could be good for me. So that's where they're going to, but where are the kids? Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, okay? So look at my Twitter numbers. Not as good. So for people, longer lifetime value, I'm probably not hitting that group. So maybe they don't care. Okay? Yeah. I don't know, because I didn't do this campaign. I don't know what, like if that was supposed to be relevant, the younger women, because in which case this didn't get what they wanted. Okay. Here's what, didn't I have it here? Oh, there it is, the numbers. The best demographic was 41 to 50, but 31 to 40 and over 50 were very close. So basically from 31 on, they did pretty well. Okay, but if you would see it in 6.5 years from now. And they're not on Facebook generally anymore. I don't know, they still like to shop a little bit, but they do spend a lot online. So, I mean, that basically now I've got a dilemma. Like, if that's what I was after, I didn't do as well. But the good thing is that with that data, I know that. I'm not sitting there like Dan saying, woohoo! We had 150% response rate. We are good, okay? Because I have the data, I can kind of see, okay, well, it was good. We drove sales, and we're really happy about that. But if our long-term vision is to reach this younger audience and get them into the fold, then we're a little off. And so we need to keep working on that, okay?
The opposite of that might not be true, because if they're saying that it's effective at 31 age and over, the buyer who's buying the clothes isn't buying Gucci stuff for the 19s.
Right.
They're buying to the market that they're reaching.
Right.
It's just like, we have a small retail mall, okay? And they struggle all the time. And I keep talking to I know the manager up there, I keep talking to her about, okay, well, how's your youth traffic? And she'll say, what's traffic? Okay. I'll go out there and walk around, and the traffic and the youth is great, but what do they do?
They're hanging out and buying Burger King.
Now, walk around doing the game park, they never seen in the store, okay? And yet, the stores carry products here to the youth.
So what,
Doing the shopping. And the store should complain to her that they're not selling.
what is that an example of?
They're not selling to the right market, number one, and they're not trying to attract the right.
Yeah, she's tracking the wrong thing. I don't care whether you walk through the door. I mean, it's a part of it, but ultimately I need you to buy stuff.
And the problem is, people that should be buying in the store don't go out there.
Because it's loaded up with kids. Yeah, that's the mall, that's actually a comment.
That's about it.
Okay, so, but you will see that. We talked early on about that. We're looking at the wrong thing. Okay? So if she's all happy because I have plenty of kids in the mall, that's terrific, but the kids aren't buying anything, so I haven't accomplished my objective. Okay? So, you know, that's where I don't, who cares if they're here? If I had 10 come in and they each spent $1 million, that'd be much better. You know, so she needs to look at what they do when they get there. She's tracking the wrong thing. Okay? So that you get that, people look at the wrong thing all the time. Okay? So anyway, the point of this is when you do have tracking, it gives you something to work on. So instead of just being traffic on Twitter, you know, let's see if we can age that down slightly. Now, based on that, as a marketer, I probably wouldn't want to say, let's go after 19-year-olds. I'd probably say, let's see if we can do a little better in 25 to 30. You know, and I'd kind of inch my way down. Because that's different messages. I've got a young professional and I got a kid in college. It's going to be different, maybe tough to do that whole big 10-year span. Okay? All right, so they did well, and they have a redemption rate, and it was online, so they could track it. Many people downloaded the coupon and didn't actually use it. All right, so we're going to combine work and break.
Ducky, that's like pro.
Media platform. That's going to be you actually do, so it's pretty good. All right, so we're going to take a break, cough around a little bit, and then come back into your groups. And we talked a little about this, but you did a great job. We just, you know, lots of emails. What can I do? What would I recommend to my customer? On Twitter, saw that. What would you do next? Like, how would you try to beef that up? Like, is there something you see and what do you recommend to your customer? You had that story to work with. Okay? So it's 10:30. So let's break and talk and do everything, and at 11 we'll...
Crazy night.